Welcome back to another story on Echo Story. Before we begin, tell us where in the world are you watching from? Now let's dive into today's story. Wade Wu had always taken pride in constructing an ideal life from nothing. By the age of 42, he was the owner of 3 thriving auto repair shops spread across the county, a luxurious home nestled in the hills, and what he believed was a devoted marriage to Jessica Wu. His roughened hands and sharp intellect had lifted him from poverty, and he never forgot his roots or those who had helped him along the way. The autumn evening began like any other, with Wade reviewing financial reports while Jessica announced she was heading to her sister Gail McIntosh's place on the other side of town. There was nothing unusual about that. Jessica and Gail were close, and overnight stays during their wine and movie nights were common. Wade kissed her goodbye, noticing how meticulously she had applied her makeup for what was supposed to be a casual evening with family. 3 hours later, Wade found himself trailing a police cruiser on Highway 47, his stomach twisting with an unexplainable sense of dread. Jessica's BMW had been stopped for speeding, something that never happened. She was the most cautious driver he knew, almost to the point of irritation. Officer Seth Mayer was young, perhaps in his early 30s, with the kind of earnest expression that still believed in doing what was right. As he checked Jessica's license, Wade noticed the officer's demeanor shift from routine indifference to something far more serious. His gaze kept flicking between the computer screen, Jessica and Wade, who thought he detected a hint of pity. "Sir," Officer Mayer called out, approaching Wade with hesitant steps, "you need to listen to me carefully. Don't go home tonight. Find somewhere safe." Wade felt the color drain from his face. "What? Why? What's going on?" The officer glanced around nervously before pressing a folded piece of paper into Wade's hand. "I can't explain right now. It's horrifying. Legally, I can't do anything, but..." His voice dropped to a whisper. "That woman isn't who you think she is. And neither is the man waiting at your house." Wade's world tilted. "What man?" he demanded. "Read the note. Tonight, don't confront anyone. Just be smart about this." Officer Mayer returned Jessica's license with a professional smile, but Wade caught the flash of disgust that crossed his face. As the patrol car drove away, Jessica returned to their vehicle, nervously chatting about how strange the officer had been and how many questions he had asked. Wade nodded absently, the note burning in his pocket like acid. He suggested they grab dinner before heading to Gail's, buying himself time to think. At the restaurant, Wade excused himself to the restroom and unfolded the note with trembling hands. The message read, "Your wife has been involved with Patrick Mullins for 8 months. Tonight he's in your house, going through your safe." She gave him the combination. "There's more. Much more. She's been planning this for years. I'm sorry. I wish I could do more." A friend who remembers how you helped his family when no one else would. Wade stared at the words until they blurred. Patrick Mullins. He knew that name. Patrick had worked at his first shop 5 years ago, a charming man with quick hands and even quicker excuses for why the cash register was always short. Wade had fired him without pressing charges, believing everyone deserved a second chance. Apparently, Patrick had been plotting his revenge ever since. But Jessica, his Jessica, had been his wife for 15 years. They had built everything together, survived his mother's cancer, her father's bankruptcy, and countless struggles that should have brought them closer. Wade folded the note and returned to the table, his expression carefully neutral. Jessica was texting someone, her phone angled away from him, something he had never noticed before but now seemed glaringly obvious. "Everything okay, honey?" she asked without looking up. "Perfect," Wade replied. And for the first time in their marriage, he meant the opposite. The drive to Gail's was 20 minutes of agony. Jessica kept checking her phone, and Wade found himself replaying every lie she might have told, every late night at work, every weekend trip to visit college friends he had never met. The foundation of his life wasn't just cracking, it was revealing that there had never been a foundation at all. When they arrived at Gale's, Wade claimed he had a work emergency and needed to head back. Jessica's relief was so obvious, it was almost comical. She kissed him goodbye with the same lips that had probably been kissing Patrick Mullins. Wade had to clench his fists to keep from grabbing her throat right there. But Wade hadn't built a business empire by acting on impulse. He had learned patience from his father, strategy from his grandfather, and ruthlessness from the streets that had tried to keep him down. If Jessica and Patrick thought they could destroy everything he had built, they were about to learn what a mistake that was. As he drove toward downtown instead of home, Wade began to formulate a plan. The couple thought they were playing him, but they had no idea they had just started a game with someone who never lost. Wade checked into the Riverside Hotel using cash, a habit from his younger days that his legitimate success had never quite erased. From his room on the 5th floor, he had a clear view of his house, 3 miles away, nestled in the hills, like a symbol of betrayal. He called his lawyer, Oliver Doyle, who owed Wade more favors than either man could count. Oliver had been a struggling public defender when Wade's first shop was vandalized by local gang members. Wade had personally tracked down every one of them, and the message he delivered had been clear enough that Oliver never had to worry about his family's safety again. Oliver, I need surveillance equipment, professional grade, and I need it. Delivered to my hotel room within 2 hours, Wade said. It's almost midnight, Oliver protested. 2 hours, Oliver. And I need complete documentation on Patrick Mullins, employment history, criminal record, financial statements, known associates, everything. The silence on the other end was long enough for Wade to hear Oliver's ethical concerns wrestling with his debt of gratitude. Gratitude won. I'll make some calls. While waiting, Wade sat by the window, watching his house through a pair of binoculars he had retrieved from his car. At 12:47 a.m., a figure emerged from the side door, the eye one only family was supposed to use. Even from this distance, Wade recognized Patrick's distinctive swagger, the way he moved as if he owned whatever space he occupied. Patrick was carrying something, a bag that looked suspiciously like the emergency cash stash Wade kept. In his study, Wade's phone buzzed with a text from Jessica, staying at Gale's tonight. She's having a hard time. Love you. He didn't respond. Oliver arrived personally at 2:15 a.m., carrying a case that looked like it belonged to a private investigator. GPS trackers, audio surveillance, micro cameras, and a complete digital file on your friend Mullins, he said, pausing. Wade, whatever you're thinking of doing, I'm thinking of protecting what's mine. The legal system protects people like them, Wade replied, his voice flat and emotionless. I protect people like me. Oliver left without another word, and Wade spent the next hour studying Patrick Mullins' life, like a general examining enemy territory. The man was a textbook narcissist with a long history of seducing married women, draining their bank accounts, and vanishing before consequences could catch up. He had done it in 3 different states, always staying just on the right side of criminal charges. But Patrick had made a critical mistake this time. He had chosen Wade Wu. Wade began with the surveillance equipment, planning entry points and camera angles. But as he studied Patrick's pattern of behavior, a much more elegant plan began to take shape. Patrick wasn't just a thief. He was predictable. He followed the same playbook every time: seduce the wife, gain access to finances, create dependency, then extract everything possible before moving on. The pattern suggested Patrick would want to completely destroy Wade's life, not just rob him. That meant this wasn't just about money. It was about power, humiliation, the complete conquest of another man's world. And that meant Patrick would get careless, because he had done this before and never faced real consequences. Wade smiled for the first time since reading the officer's note. Patrick Mullins had no idea what real consequences looked like. By dawn, Wade had a preliminary plan. He would give Patrick exactly what he wanted: complete access to Wade's world. But like a spider offering its web to a fly, that access would become a trap. Wade's phone rang. Jessica, hi honey, how did your emergency go? Fine. Just a problem with the Morrison contract, she lied smoothly. How's Gail? Better. Listen, I might need to stay another night or two. She's really struggling. Of course. Take care of your sister. After hanging up, Wade looked up Gail McIntosh's phone number. It was time to test just how elaborate Jessica's deception was. Gail, it's Wade. I just wanted to check on you and make sure you're okay. The confusion in Gail's voice was answer enough. She was fine, hadn't seen Jessica in 2 weeks, and had no idea what Wade was talking about. Wade thanked her and hung up, adding another lie to his mental ledger. Jessica hadn't just betrayed him, she had crafted an entire alternate reality to do it. The sister visits, the work emergencies, the girls' weekends. How much of his wife's life had been fiction? But Wade had grown up on the streets before building his empire. And one thing the streets had taught him was that people who lived in fantasies died when reality came calling. It was time to introduce Patrick and Jessica to reality. The next afternoon, Wade returned home, moving through his house as if it were a crime scene. Everything appeared normal, but now he knew what to look for. The safe in his study had been opened and closed, but whoever had done it was skilled. No scratches on the lock, no disturbed dust. Professional work. He checked the hidden camera he had installed in his study years ago after a break-in scare. The timestamp showed Patrick Mullins in Wade's private space at 11:23 p.m., photographing documents, copying files, and pocketing what looked like Wade's emergency cash reserve and backup credit cards. But the most chilling moment came when Patrick held up Wade's wedding photo, smirked at it as if sharing a private joke, then carefully placed it face down on the desk. Wade watched the footage 3 times, memorizing every detail of Patrick's movements, his expressions, his casual violation of everything Wade held sacred. Then he made a decision that would have consequences far beyond what Jessica and Patrick could imagine. He called his old friend Clarence Combs. Clarence ran a security consulting firm, which was a polite way of saying he handled problems that couldn't be solved through legal channels. They had grown up in the same neighborhood, and when Clarence's daughter had needed surgery that insurance wouldn't cover, Wade had paid for it without being asked. That kind of debt ran deeper than money. Clarence, I need a full team, Wade said. Surveillance, counter-surveillance, and asset protection. And I need people who understand that some problems require permanent solutions. How permanent are we talking, Wade? I'll let you know. Within hours, Wade's house was wired with professional surveillance equipment that made Oliver's setup look like children's toys. But more importantly, Clarence had provided something even more valuable: information. Your boy Patrick has debts, Clarence reported over dinner at a truck stop outside town. Serious debts to serious people. He owes money to some Russian import-export specialists who don't accept payment plans. Word is, he needs a big score soon, or he's going to have more problems than a cheating wife can solve. How much does he owe? $250,000 plus interest that compounds daily. Wade leaned back in his booth, pieces clicking into place. So Jessica isn't just his target, she's his lifeline. It gets better, Clarence continued. I ran some checks on your wife's financial activity. She's been moving money for months, small amounts, different accounts, always just under the reporting thresholds. Someone taught her how to launder money without triggering flags. The waitress refilled Wade's coffee, and he waited until she was gone before speaking. How much? Best estimate? She's moved about $400,000 over the past year. Money that came from your business accounts, your personal savings, even small, amounts from your retirement fund. Wade's vision went red around the edges. $400,000. Money that represented years of 18-hour days. Deals made in back alleys and boardrooms. Risks that had paid off through sweat, blood, and sheer force of will. There's more, Clarence said. The money didn't just disappear. It's been invested, real estate purchases in Patrick's name, some offshore accounts, a few business ventures that don't exist on paper. They've been building a future together, Wade. A future financed by your past. Wade set down his coffee cup with deliberate care. I want to know everything. Every account, every purchase, every lie they've told each other. I want to know what they eat for breakfast and what they dream about at night. Then Wade met his old friend's eyes, and Clarence saw something there that made him glad they were on the same side. Then I'm going to give them exactly what they deserve. That night, Wade lay in his bed, the bed he had shared with Jessica for 15 years, and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, he would begin implementing a plan that would make Patrick and Jessica's betrayal look like a children's game. They thought they were stealing his life, but they were about to discover that some men couldn't be stolen from. They could only be awakened. His phone buzzed with another text from Jessica. Miss you. Home tomorrow night. Can't wait to see you. Wade typed back. Can't wait either. We need to talk about our future. For once, he was telling the truth. Wade woke before dawn and went through his morning routine like a man preparing for battle. Coffee, shower, workout in his home gym. Then he carefully reviewed the surveillance footage from the night before. Jessica had returned home at 2:47 a.m., moving through the house like a ghost, checking her phone constantly, even going so far as to smell Wade's pillow to see if he had been there. When she finally woke at 9:30, Wade was already gone, ostensibly to work, but actually to begin phase 1 of his plan. His first stop was the office of Maria Gamble, a private investigator who specialized in financial crimes. Maria had helped Wade investigate a potential partner years ago and had uncovered embezzlement that saved him from a disastrous merger. She was thorough, discreet, and had no qualms about operating in legal gray areas. I need complete financial profiles on these two, Wade said, sliding photos of Jessica and Patrick across her desk. Every account, every transaction, every asset, legal and illegal. Maria studied the photos. Your wife? My soon-to-be ex-wife. This isn't going to be cheap, Wade. Deep financial investigations take time and resources. Wade placed a briefcase on her desk and opened it. $50,000 in cash. How much time do you need? 2 hours. You have 48. Next, Wade visited his accountant, Hal Stevens, who managed the books for all 3 of his auto shops. Hal was meticulous to the point of obsession, which made him perfect for what Wade needed. Hal, I need you to restructure everything, Wade said. Transfer ownership of the shops to a new corporation, move all liquid assets to accounts Jessica can't access, and create a paper trail that shows the businesses are struggling financially. Hal's face went pale. Wade, if you're going through a divorce, this could be considered asset hiding. The courts won't be involved, Wade interrupted, his tone flat. I'm not getting divorced. I'm getting justice. The difference is in the execution. The difference in his voice made Hal stop asking questions. By afternoon, Wade had visited each of his shops, ostensibly for routine inspections, but actually to plant seeds of a much larger plan. He spoke privately with key employees, asking carefully crafted questions about loyalty, about what they would do if the business faced serious threats, about whether they could keep sensitive information confidential. Wade had learned long ago that loyalty couldn't be bought, but it could be cultivated. Every person he spoke with remembered specific kindnesses, the Christmas bonuses when their kids needed surgery, the promotions when other shops wouldn't hire them, the second chances when their own mistakes could have cost them everything. By evening, Wade had assembled a network of allies who would do almost anything to protect the man who had protected them. The final stop of the day was the most important, a meeting with James Hernandez, a man whose official title was business consultant, but whose actual function was solving problems that couldn't be solved through conventional means. They met at a private club downtown, the kind of place where conversations weren't recorded and memberships couldn't be bought with money alone. I have a situation, James, Wade began, that requires a delicate touch. James listened without interruption as Wade outlined the betrayal, the theft, and the complete violation of everything he had built. When Wade finished, James was quiet for a long moment. "What's your endgame, Wade?" "Complete destruction. I want them to lose everything they've stolen from me and everything they think they own. I want them to understand what it feels like to have their entire life revealed as a lie. And if they fight back." Wade's smile was cold. "They're welcome to try." James nodded slowly. "This isn't just about money, is it?" "No," Wade replied. "It's about respect, about consequences, about teaching two people that there are men in this world who can't be stolen from, only awakened. I can have resources in place within a week. You have 3 days." Wade drove home to find Jessica cooking dinner, humming softly to herself, playing the role of devoted wife with an expertise that would have been admirable if it weren't so completely false. She kissed him when he walked in, and Wade had to suppress the urge to grab her throat and demand the truth. Instead, he played his own role. The trusting husband, the successful businessman, the man too comfortable in his life to notice it being systematically dismantled around him. "How was work?" Jessica asked, her voice bright with false concern. "Interesting," Wade replied. "I've been thinking about expanding, maybe opening a 4th shop." Jessica's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "That sounds expensive. I've been looking at a place across town, perfect location, but it would require a significant investment." Wade watched her face carefully. "Money. I'd need to liquidate some assets to make it work." The flash of panic in Jessica's eyes was so brief that someone who didn't know what to look for might have missed it. But Wade saw it, cataloged it, and filed it away for future use. "Maybe we should discuss any major financial decisions together," Jessica said carefully. "Of course," Wade replied. "After all, we're partners in everything." That night, as Jessica slept beside him, Wade lay awake, planning the systematic destruction of two people who had made the mistake of thinking Wade Wu was just another mark to be conned and discarded. They were about to learn that some men weren't victims. They were predators. The call came at 6:47 a.m., 3 days after Wade had set his plan in motion. Maria Gamble's voice was tense, a mix of excitement and disgust. "Wade, you need to see this. Can you be at my office in an hour?" Wade arrived to find Maria's desk buried under financial documents, photographs, and bank records that painted a picture of betrayal far deeper than he had imagined. "Your wife is clever," Maria began, "but Patrick Mullins is cleverer and greedier." She spread out a series of bank statements. "Jessica has been moving your money for 14 months, not 8. But here's the interesting part. Patrick's been moving her money too. Every account she set up, every investment she made with your stolen funds, he's been skimming from. She thinks they have $400,000 together. He's actually got closer to $600,000, and $300,000 of it is hidden from her." Wade studied the documents, feeling a cold satisfaction settle in his chest. Maria produced a lease agreement. Patrick signed a 2-year lease on a house in Jessica's name, using her social security number and a forged signature. If things go south, she's liable for 24 months of rent on a place she's never seen. Where? Costa Rica. Non-extradition jurisdiction for financial crimes under $50,000 per incident. Wade leaned back, the pieces of the puzzle clicking together. Patrick wasn't just stealing from Wade. He was setting Jessica up to take the fall for everything. When the time came to disappear, Patrick would leave Jessica holding the bag for fraud charges, while he lived comfortably on money stolen from both of them. "There's more," Maria continued. "Patrick's been recording everything. Phone calls, hotel meetings, even intimate encounters. He's got enough evidence to destroy Jessica's reputation and implicate her in every aspect of the theft while painting himself as a manipulated victim." Wade felt something that might have been admiration for Patrick's thoroughness if it weren't directed at destroying his life. The man was a professional predator who had perfected the art of leaving his accomplices to face the consequences alone. But Patrick had made one critical error. He'd assumed Wade Wu was just another mark. "I need copies of everything," Wade said. "And I need you to do one more thing." That afternoon, Wade implemented the next phase of his plan. He called Jessica at work and asked her to meet him for lunch at their favorite restaurant, the same place where they'd had their first date 16 years ago. Jessica arrived looking beautiful and nervous, constantly checking her phone, a habit Wade now recognized as Patrick maintenance. "I've been thinking about our future," Wade began, echoing the text he'd sent nights ago, "about what we want out of life." "What do you mean?" Wade pulled out a folder and set it on the table between them. "I mean, I think it's time for us to make some changes. Big changes." Jessica's face paled as she opened the folder and saw the first document, a property listing for a house in Costa Rica, complete with photographs and a purchase agreement. "Wait, what is this?" "Our new life," Wade said. "I've been looking into retiring early, maybe moving somewhere we can really be ourselves. I found this place through a business associate, Patrick Mullins. You remember Patrick, don't you? He used to work for me." Jessica's hand trembled as she turned the pages. I don't understand." "Patrick's been helping me research expatriate living," Wade continued, his voice casual. "Taxes, property laws, the best ways to transfer assets internationally, without triggering government oversight. He's got quite a bit of experience with international finance." The color drained from Jessica's face as she realized Wade was describing exactly what she and Patrick had been doing with his money. But there was more. Wade was describing it like it was his idea, like he was planning to do it legally and openly. "Wait, I don't think Patrick suggested we could liquidate most of our domestic assets and reinvest them offshore," she stammered. "He estimates we could have everything transferred within a month if we move quickly." Jessica's phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it, and Wade saw her face go from pale to gray. Whatever Patrick had just sent her, it wasn't good news. "I need to go," Jessica said suddenly, closing the folder. "I'm not feeling well." "Of course," Wade replied. "Take the folder with you. Look it over, and we can discuss it tonight." He watched Jessica hurry out of the restaurant, clutching the folder like it was evidence of her own execution, which in a way it was. Jessica now had to choose: warn Patrick that Wade somehow knew about their plan, risking exposure of their entire relationship, or stay quiet and hope Wade's interest in Costa Rica was coincidental. Either choice would lead to the same result. Patrick would realize the situation had become too dangerous and would begin implementing his exit strategy, which meant he would begin cutting Jessica loose. Wade's phone buzzed with a text from Clarence. Package delivered. Phase 3 was ready to begin. That evening, Wade came home to find Jessica pacing the kitchen. The Costa Rica folder was open on the counter, her phone pressed to her ear. She hung up quickly when she saw him. "Everything." "Okay," Wade asked. "Fine, just work stuff." Jessica's smile was strained. "I looked over those documents. It's an interesting idea, but maybe we should think about it more." "Actually, I was hoping we could speed things up," Wade said. "Patrick thinks there might be some regulatory changes coming that could make transfers more difficult." Jessica's face went through a series of micro-expressions: fear, confusion, calculation, desperation. Wade cataloged each one. "Maybe we should meet with Patrick together," she said finally, "so he can explain the details to both of us." Wade smiled. "Great idea. How about tomorrow night?" After Jessica went to bed, Wade called Clarence. "Tomorrow night, Patrick Mullins is going to realize he's been outplayed," Wade said. "I need you to make sure he doesn't have any options for running. Consider it done." Wade hung up and walked to his study, where he opened his safe and removed the item Clarence had delivered that afternoon, a digital recorder containing every conversation Patrick and Jessica had shared over the past month, courtesy of surveillance equipment that had turned their hotel room into a confessional booth. Wade had heard his wife's voice describing how easy it would be to bleed Wade dry, how Patrick made her feel alive in ways Wade never could, how they would disappear once they had enough of his money. But the most interesting conversation had been the one where Patrick explained to Jessica how he would eventually need to cut ties cleanly when the time came to relocate permanently. Jessica had no idea she was talking to a man who was planning to destroy her life along with Wade's. Wade smiled as he locked the recorder back in the safe. Tomorrow night, Jessica and Patrick would discover that they weren't the only ones capable of planning a betrayal. They were just the only ones stupid enough to think they could get away with it. Chapter 6. The Crucible. The meeting was set for 7 p.m. at Morton's Steakhouse, neutral territory, where both Jessica and Patrick would feel comfortable. Wade arrived early and selected a corner booth with clear sightlines to all entrances, an old habit from a youth spent in environments where sitting with your back to a door could be fatal. Jessica arrived first. Her nervousness was obvious in the way she kept smoothing her hair and checking her phone. She was dressed carefully, professional but attractive, the kind of outfit that suggested serious business while still appealing to the men in her life. Patrick entered exactly at 7 kang, and Wade had to admire his composure. The man showed no sign of recognition beyond a polite smile, no indication that he had been systematically looting Wade's life for over a year. He was good at his craft. "Wade," Patrick said, extending his hand with perfect confidence. "Good to see you again. Jessica's told me you're interested in some offshore opportunities." "Very interested," Wade replied, studying Patrick's face. "I understand you have considerable experience with international asset management." "Some," Patrick said modestly. "I've helped a few clients diversify their holdings in favorable jurisdictions." Wade nodded and pulled out a briefcase. "I've brought some documentation you might find interesting." Patrick's eyes flicked to the briefcase, then to Jessica, who had gone very still. Wade opened the briefcase and removed 3 folders, setting them on the table with deliberate precision. "The first folder contains financial records from my businesses over the past 18 months, Wade began. "Revenue, expenses, asset transfers, the usual." Patrick relaxed slightly. This was familiar territory. The second folder contains surveillance photographs taken over the past month. Patrick's face didn't change, but Wade caught the slight tightening around his eyes. Jessica made a small sound that might have been a whimper. "The third folder contains transcripts of conversations between various parties regarding my finances, my marriage, and certain planned relocations to non-extradition territories." The silence that followed was profound. Patrick's hand had stopped moving toward his water glass. Jessica was staring at the folders as if they were venomous snakes. Wade continued conversationally. "We can discuss this like civilized people, or we can involve other parties. Your choice." Patrick recovered first, as Wade had expected. Predators were always quick to assess new threats. "Wade, I think there might be some misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," Wade interrupted. He opened the first folder and removed a bank statement. "Jessica, would you like to explain to Patrick why your signature appears on this withdrawal authorization for $50,000 from my business account?" Jessica's face crumpled. "Or, Patrick," Wade continued, "perhaps you'd like to explain why you're listed as the beneficiary on a life insurance policy Jessica took out on me 6 months ago." That got Patrick's attention. Wade had saved this revelation for maximum impact, and the look of genuine surprise on Patrick's face told him everything he needed to know. Patrick hadn't known about the insurance policy, which meant Jessica had been planning contingencies that didn't include her lover. Life insurance? Patrick's voice was carefully controlled, but Wade caught the edge of betrayal underneath. $2 million, Wade said. Jessica as the primary beneficiary, and Patrick Mullins as secondary. Interesting arrangement, don't you think? Patrick turned to Jessica with an expression that would have been terrifying if Wade hadn't been enjoying. It's so much. You didn't mention any insurance policies. I wanted to protect us, Jessica stammered. Protect us or protect yourself? Wade asked. Patrick's face went white. You didn't mention any insurance policies. Jessica's voice was shaky. I wanted to protect us or protect yourself, Wade repeated. Wade leaned back and watched as the alliance between his wife and her lover began to fracture in real time. This was why he'd included the insurance information, even though discovering it had been the most chilling moment of his investigation. Jessica hadn't just been stealing from him. She'd been considering whether his death might be more profitable than his betrayal. There's more, Wade said, opening the second folder. Patrick, are you familiar with the name Arturo Haynes? Patrick's face went white. How do you... Arturo is a business associate of mine. Has been for years. Imagine my surprise when he mentioned that someone had approached him about arranging an accident for a prominent local businessman. This was a lie, but Wade delivered it with such casual confidence that both Jessica and Patrick believed it completely. The art of psychological warfare was making your enemies destroy themselves with their own guilt and paranoia. Wade, Jessica, whispered, We never planned to kill me? Wade finished. Or you never planned to get caught? Patrick stood abruptly. I think this conversation is over. Sit down, Wade said quietly, and something in his voice made Patrick freeze. You haven't heard the best part yet. Wade opened the third folder and removed a photograph of Patrick entering a hotel room, followed by another photograph of him leaving 3 hours later with a briefcase. That's the Riverside Hotel, room 237, last Tuesday night. The briefcase contains approximately $150,000 in cash that Jessica doesn't know about. Jessica turned to Patrick with an expression of dawning horror. What is he talking about? Or we could discuss the house in Costa Rica that Patrick leased in your name, Jessica, Wade continued. The one you'll be liable for even after he disappears with the money you've both been stealing from me. The trap was now fully sprung. Patrick realized he'd been outmaneuvered. Jessica realized she'd been betrayed by both men in her life. Wade sat back to watch them tear each other apart. You bastard, Jessica hissed at Patrick. You were planning to leave me holding everything. And you're planning to murder your husband, Patrick shot back. Wade smiled. Actually, you're both going to have bigger problems than each other very soon. He removed his phone and showed them the screen, which displayed a text message. Package secured. Awaiting instructions. Clarence Combs has been monitoring this conversation. Wade explained. He's also been monitoring both of your residences, your financial accounts, and your communications. In approximately 10 minutes, federal agents are going to raid Patrick's apartment and Jessica's office. This was another lie, but Wade was counting on panic to prevent logical thinking. What they'll find is evidence of systematic fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit murder. They'll also find evidence that Jessica has been embezzling from her own company to fund this operation. Jessica's face went ashen. She worked as an accountant for a major firm, and any financial irregularities in her work would end her career, even if they didn't result in criminal charges. Here's what's going to happen, Wade continued. Patrick, you're going to transfer every penny you've stolen from me back to my accounts. All of it, including the money you've hidden from Jessica. And if I refuse? Patrick asked. Wade's smile was cold. Then you'll find out what happens when you steal from someone who grew up in neighborhoods where thieves didn't live long enough to repeat their mistakes. Patrick's bravado cracked. You're threatening me. I'm promising you. Wade turned to Jessica. And you, my dear wife, are going to sign divorce papers that leave you with exactly what you brought to this marriage 15 years ago. Nothing. Jessica's voice was shaky. Wait, please. You had 15 years to be honest with me. You had 1,000 opportunities to be the woman I thought I married. Instead, you chose to be a thief and a... The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Wade stood and placed $500 on the table. "This covers dinner. You have 24 hours to comply with my terms. After that, other people will handle the situation, and they won't be as generous as I'm being." He walked away, leaving Jessica and Patrick to face the wreckage of their carefully planned betrayal. Behind him, he could hear them starting to argue, accusations flying, the sound of two predators turning on each other when their prey proved too dangerous to handle. The real revenge was just beginning,